Hey kids, welcome back. So we are in session 3 of day 6 of the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival in association with Vishwarang. So you have been through several sessions already, and if you have missed anything, not to worry. All you need to do is go to the playlist called Children's Literature Festival, and you can look at all the episodes at your pace and watch your favorite ones again and again, right? So today I'm very excited because we have Nandini Nair on our channel. So Nandini is an award-winning author. She has written more than 50 books for children and over 500 short stories. She has 21 entries in the Oxford Encyclopedia for Children's Literature, and she has won several awards, in children's literature, both nationally and internationally. Those of you who love the antics of Pranav's Dadi from Tinkle, she was one of the main creators of that much loved character. So let's meet, our author Nandini Nair as she reads out some really interesting stories to you. She's going to read out 2 of her very best-selling stories, which is Where is Amma and Guddu's Photo. So let's listen to those 2 stories, and after that I'm going to meet her and ask her a lot of questions that all of you have as budding creative writers, and how do we write so many stories, how do we get the idea. So she's given all you children a lot of very useful tips. So stay tuned, and let's get into the session with Nandini Nair. Before that, please press the subscribe button if you already haven't to stay tuned. You don't want to miss on some fantastic sessions coming up. Also follow me on Instagram and Facebook so that you are completely in tune with all the fun stuff that we have lined up for you. All right? So over to you, Nandini.
Hello everyone, I'm Nandini Nair and I write books for children. Can you see this shelf behind me? These are all books that I have written for children of different ages. Have you read any of the books that I have written? If you have, do leave a comment in the comments section giving me the title of the book. Okay, now today is a really special day because I am meeting you all and you are getting to meet me all. And you know what we do on special days, right? Of course, yes, we put on nice clothes, but then we also take pictures, because when you take a picture, what happens? The picture stays with you forever and ever, even after the day is gone. So I want a picture which I want you all to take of me today with all my books behind me, so that I will remember that, this is what I did on this particular day. I told stories to a bunch of fun kids, and I will take a printout of the picture and I want to put it up right here on my shelf along with all of my books. So I hope you're ready to take a picture of me. I know what you're wondering. You are wondering if you should go running quickly and get the camera. You don't have to worry, because you know what? You have the camera right here in your hand. Now hold up your fingers like this, cross it, put your eye here and click. That's a picture taken. Ready? Okay, but remember, when you take a photo, you have to make sure that the person who is being photographed is smiling, because a smile is the nicest thing you can wear. So remember to tell me to smile. Okay? Let's start. Let me sit really nicely. Make sure you can all see my books. Okay, 2 fingers up, fingers crossed, and you put it here and you say, smile, Nandini auntie. But you know what? I don't want to smile. I'm sitting here without a smile, and I know you're all wondering, it's a happy day, why isn't Nandini auntie smiling? It's because I have a friend who I want to bring into this photo. Please, may I bring my friend into this photograph? Yes, thank you so much. Here he is. This little dog is my friend and I want him in this picture. So I am going to put him right here so that he'll be over my shoulder. And now, ready for the picture. So 2 fingers up, crossed, to the eye and smile, Nandini auntie. But Nandini auntie doesn't want to smile because I have another friend and I would like the second friend in the photo with me too. Please, may I bring my second friend along? Yes, thank you. Here he is. Here he is. And I'm going to put him right here. So he too will be in the picture with me. And now I'm ready. Okay, so two fingers up, cross to the eye. And then what are you all going to tell me? Smile. And there I am with my biggest smile. Click. Thank you. That's going to make a wonderful, wonderful photo which I will always treasure. Okay. So remember always when someone is taking a photo of you to smile because that makes a photo lovely. Today I'm going to tell you the story of this boy named Guddu, and his mother wanted to take a photo of him, but something was going on with Guddu. Let's find out what it was. This is the story. It's called Guddu's photo. Okay, and you can see Amma is right here. Sorry, Amma is right here, and she's got this big, huge camera ready, hung around her neck. And here's a little chair all ready for Guddu to sit and take a picture. But where is Guddu? Why isn't he there? And look at poor Amma, all confused and worried and anxious. Let's find out. Now, one day what happened was Amma said to Guddu, Guddu, I want to take a photo of you. Look at Guddu, peeping, and Amma has got this big camera all ready. And Guddu said, yes, let's take a photo. Let me go run and bring all my friends. Let me get cat and dog. And Amma said, no. I want a photo of just you. Okay, so here is Guddu. Look at him with his hair all neatly combed and sitting so nicely on a chair. And what did Amma do? She's got this big camera. Now we know how we take a photo, right? So Amma put the camera to her eye. And you know what she said, right? Now wherever you are, whether you're sitting at home with your family or you're with your friends, I want you all to shout loudly and tell Guddu, smile. Okay, so Amma put the camera to her eye and she said, smile. But Guddu did not smile. And Amma was just going to click the photo when something soft jumped onto his lap. Can you guess what it was? Let's find out. It was cat. Look at cat sitting in Guddu's lap. And look at Amma. She's like, where did this cat come from? Guddu, and Guddu said, Amma, I don't know. And he's so happy and he's smiling. And Amma said, oh, Guddu, cat has come into the photo and spoiled it. Let's do one thing. Let's go and stand outside and take a photo of you. So look at where Guddu is standing. You can see the steps there. You can see the railing. Guddu standing outside. And look at how neat his hair is. And what did Amma do? We all know what she did. She put the camera to her eye. She said, smile. I want you all to say it, smile. And she was just going to click the photo when something suddenly licked Guddu's leg. Now, what licks your leg? It was dog. And Amma said, oh no, where did dog come from? And Guddu said, Amma, I don't know. And look at the joy on Guddu's face. And Amma said, okay, you're standing here. That's why dog has licked you. Come on, let's go and stand under the tree. And they went and stood under the tree. Amma put that camera to her eye, and what did she say? She said, smile. And she was just going to click the photo when something suddenly jumped on Guddu's shoulder. Can you see it here? It was monkey. And Amma said, where did monkey come from, Guddu? Guddu said, Amma, I really don't know where monkey came from. All right, Amma said, let's take a picture of you on the swing. Look at this, lovely swing that Guddu has. Do you have a swing like this? Really, you do? And Guddu stood there and look at Amma all ready with that big huge camera of hers, and she put it to her eye, and what did she say? She said, smile all together now, loudly, smile. She was just going to click the photo when something pecked Guddu's cheek. What was it? It was parrot. Look at Parrot pecking Gudu's cheek, and Amma, look at poor Amma. Oh no, she's like, where did Parrot come from? Gudu said, Amma, I don't know where Parrot came from. All right, Amma said, Parrot, let's leave Parrot here and let's go and stand by the wall. So Gudu went and stood by the compound wall. And Amma put the camera to her eye. And what did she say to Gudu? She said, smile. And she was just going to take the photo, just going to click it. Something tickled Gudu's neck. It was horse. And look at that giggle and that smile on Gudu's face. Look at horse leaning over the wall to tickle his friend Gudu. Now remember, how many photos had Amma tried to take? First photo she had tried to take in the house, and who spoiled that photo? It was cat jumping on Gudu's lap. And then she said, let's stand outside the house and take a photo. And who spoiled that photo? It was dog licking Gudu's leg. And then Amma said, let's stand under the tree. And do you remember who spoiled that photo? Yes, I remember too. It was monkey jumping on Gudu's shoulder. And then Gudu stood on his lovely swing, and who came there to spoil that picture? It was Parrot, which came and pecked at his cheek. And then Amma said, let's stand by the compound wall, Gudu, and you can take a picture there. And who spoiled that one? It was horse. And now Gudu knew what to expect. Look at how sad he looks. Did you see? And he said, Amma, will we have to take another photo? And Amma said, yes. But you know what she said, which was different from the other photos? She said, Gudu, go and get all your friends and let's take a photo with your friends. And remember all his friends, okay? Let's see. Gudu went running and he got them all. Okay? So that is Gudu's head. Here is Parrot sitting there. Here is monkey swinging away, and there's horse, and dog and cat are in his arms. And then what did Amma do? She put the camera to her eye, and remember what she said loudly, all of you, get everybody in the house, your mom and dad, grandpa, grandma, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, neighbors, everyone, to shout, smile. And this time Gudu smiled so hugely, and Amma did click. Want to see the photo, Shitter? This is the photo. Can you see that big smile on Gudu's face? And look at all his friends there with him. Okay, I can see cat in Gudu's arms, and here is dog near him, and there is monkey, there is parrot, and then there is horse. And it was a beautiful picture. You want to see the picture? I'll show you. Or you can just go to Gudu's house, because you know what? Amma got it framed beautifully and it's hanging there up on their wall. Okay, so this is the story of Gudu and that photo. Now remember, whenever your mom or dad or uncle or aunt or grandpa or grandma or brother or sister or cousin, anybody aims a camera at you, always smile. Okay, and if you read this book, leave a comment and tell me what you thought of it. If you haven't, go get your mom or dad or somebody to buy a copy for you to read this out. Alright? Has it ever happened to you that you go out with your mom and then you suddenly look around? Maybe you're in a mall or in a shop or in a market, and you look around and you can't see Amma. Has it happened to you? Isn't it a very scary thing to happen? Today's story is about this boy named Kiran. And you know something? Kiran couldn't find Amma, not in the market, not in a mall, not in a movie theater, not anywhere. Kiran was in the house and he couldn't find his Amma. Let's see what happened to Kiran. Did he find his Amma? Now, this is the book. It's called Where is Amma? And you know who's written this story? I've written this story. So yes, Nandini Nair, that's my name. And let's see what happened to Kiran. This is Kiran. Can you see him? And he's got a little friend, a cat. Now one day, Kiran was at home and he was looking for his mother. Now where do you look for your mother if you can't find her? You look first in the living room, because sometimes Ammas are sitting there and reading a newspaper or watching some television, or just talking to someone on the phone. And that's what Kiran did. Can you see his living room? You can see a bookshelf, you can see photo, you can see Kiran trying to look for Amma but there is no Amma. So where had Amma disappeared? Kiran wondered. So he went running to the kitchen. Yes. Can you see Amma anywhere there? Do you see her hiding behind the gas stove, or is she sitting, all crouched in the cupboard? No, there was no Amma. The gas was there, the mixie was there, there were, all the cups and saucers and spoons and everything there. But Kiran couldn't see Amma. And then he thought, hey, what if Amma went to the balcony? Because there's so much to do on the balcony. Maybe Amma was just standing there or sitting there and enjoying the breeze, or maybe she's watering the garden. The little pots that they have. But Amma wasn't in the balcony either. And then he thought, sometimes Ammas get tired. They have so much work to do. So perhaps Amma is lying in bed and she's got this nice book to read, and that's where she is. So he went running. But can you see Amma anywhere? No, she was not curled up in bed and she was not reading a book. Then, what he did? He even peeped under the bed just in case Amma had rolled there to enjoy some peace and quiet. But no, Kiran could not find his Amma there. And then he remembered, oh right, how could I forget? Sometimes Amma does have work to do. So what if she's put on the computer and she's sitting there and she's typing away, trying to finish the work quickly? So Kiran went running. Look, he's found Amma's dupatta. So he went running to the computer, but the computer chair was empty and the computer hadn't even been switched on. And now Kiran was seriously worried. Look at his face. He's so sad and worried and anxious, and he's wondering, where is Amma? Where is Amma? Okay, so now let's see if he finds her or not. Then Kiran saw something. No, he did not see Amma. He saw Amma's slippers. I'm sure you're wondering, what difference does it make seeing Amma's slippers? Amma's slippers don't mean that is Amma. No, but Amma's slippers tell you where Amma is. Now, suppose somebody came to your house. What would they do? They would take off their slippers outside the door and then come in. So when you look at the slippers which are outside any door, you know if this house has guests in it. You can even guess who is come. So if you have a cousin who likes, maybe a Batman or Spider-Man shoes, and you see a pair of Batman shoes there, you say it's my cousin who's come, right? Right? You know that the person is behind the door. And now Kiran saw Amma's slippers and they were outside a door. Let me see if you recognize which door it is, okay? So he saw Amma's slippers and this is the door. Can you recognize what door it is? It is a fridge door. And look at Amma's slippers, yellow and red and nice and bright. And look at Kiran, he's so excited. He's pointing to the slippers and he's saying, look, Amma's slippers. Because you know what he thinks happened? Amma took off her slippers here. She opened the door of the fridge and she went in and sat down in the fridge. Do you think that really happened? Let's see what happens. And now Kiran wanted to know, what was Amma doing in the fridge? Isn't that what happens every time your Amma goes into the bathroom or she goes in to change her clothes? You stand outside the door and you want to talk to Amma and you say, Amma, what are you doing there? Amma, when are you going to come out? Amma, you're taking so long over it. Right? Let's see if these are the questions that Kiran asked. Okay. So look at Kiran. He's pulling up a little stool to sit and talk to Amma. And he asked loudly, Amma, can you hear me? But there was no reply at all. And now look at this picture. Kiran is settled down there on the stool. And then he's asking Amma, isn't it cold inside, Amma? What are you doing in there? You think Amma replied? Of course not. So there was no reply. And then Kiran began to think. And you know what he thought? What do we keep in the fridge? We keep vegetables, we keep fruits, we keep milk. And Kiran suddenly said, oh no, Amma, are you drinking up all the milk? Because you know what? Kiran wanted to drink the milk too. So he asked Amma. But there was still no reply. And then Kiran remembered, oh no, there's a box of mithais in the fridge. It's got barfis and laddus and pedas and everything. What if Amma is eating it? And he thought, look at Amma. He thought, Are you eating up all the burfis? He asked Amma. You're eating it all up, he thought. Her mouth is full, and that's why she's not answering my questions. And then he remembered something else which was in the fridge. You know what it was? It was something that we all like. It is red or yellow or red or yellow color or orange color, and it's sweet and it's yummy when you eat it on a slice of bread. It's amazing when you roll it up in a roti, and it's very, very nice when you eat it with dosa. Can you guess? Have you guessed? Yes, it was a bottle of jam. And then he remembered there was such a big bottle of jam in the fridge, and look at him imagining. And he told Amma, don't finish off all the jam, because you know what, I like to eat it with whatever. What do you like to eat it with? Leave a comment in the comment section and tell me if you like to eat it with bread, or your favorite way of eating jam is with a roti or with dosa or with anything else, or even with idli. You know, it will taste really good with idli too. So write and tell me. But here was Kiran worrying, Amma, don't finish all the jam, because what will I eat then? And there was still no reply. And now Kiran was seriously worried. He shouted, Amma, come out quickly. Can you see there is somebody right behind Kiran? Right there. Yes, it is Amma. So Amma wasn't in the fridge after all. Of course she wasn't, because you know that a fridge is not the place for someone to sit in. Right? It's so cold, there's no room. And why would anyone sit in a fridge when they had so many nice places to sit in? So Amma came up behind him, and Amma was so surprised, but Kiran was so happy. Can you see that big smile on his face? And he said, Amma, you're here. You know, I thought you were in the fridge. And Amma was very surprised, and she said, oh, why would you think that? But Kiran had a reason, right? So he pointed to her slippers and he said, look, Amma, your slippers were outside the door, and you know that whenever you enter a room or you enter a house, what do? You open the door, you take off your slippers, and then you walk in. And that's why, Amma, I thought that you were in the fridge. And then you know what Kiran said, Amma, it must have been so cold in the fridge. And you know what? You didn't even have your sweater with you. Amma, I was so worried about you. That's why I was sitting here and talking to you and asking you all the questions and waiting for you to come back. And Amma laughed and she hugged Kiran. Can you see? That's the end. Here you have the cat putting up the end, and here are Amma's slippers, and lots of little slippers going away. Okay, so yes, now you know the answer to the question, where is Amma? Was she in the bedroom? No. Was she in the kitchen? No. Was she in the balcony? She wasn't. Was she working in front of the computer? Of course not. Was she in the living room reading a newspaper? Not at all. Was she in the kitchen making something nice and yummy? No, she wasn't. Was she in the fridge? Of course not. No one sits in the fridge. She was probably up on the terrace or somewhere else, and she had gone to get the clothes, and she had folded them and she had brought them, and Kiran didn't know that she had gone, and that's why he got so worried, and that's why he asked, where is Amma? Okay, so this is the story of Kiran and his Amma, and you know how he found her and what he thought where she was. Now, if you have ever had an experience where you can't find Amma or Papa or anyone, do leave a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've already read this book, write and tell me that you've read it. If you haven't read it, here's your reason. Go buy it and read it so you can have your own copy of Kiran with his adventures, and you can look at all the lovely pictures. Okay, so bye bye, keep smiling, keep reading, stay happy kids, bye.
Hey kids, so how was that? That was so fun, wasn't it? I mean, really, I could feel the frustration of Kiran looking for Amma and hunting everywhere, and only a little child could have even imagine that mom could be hiding in the refrigerator. So, Nandini, thank you so much for those two lovely story recitations that you did for kids. And just to tell you again, today is day 4 of the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Arts and Music Festival as a part of Vishwarang 2020. And I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome on our day 4 and our author session for today.
Thank you, Pallavi. It's really nice to be here and to be a part of such a fantastic endeavor to bring books and music and arts and everything to children. So I'm really pleased. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. We've had such an amazing run up. We had Ruskin Bond speaking to all the children, and you know how
Wow.
he wrote his books. And then we had a whole session. We've been doing storytelling sessions, and then one by Priya as well about Ramanujan and numbers. And
Uh-huh.
today we're going to have yet another beautiful author and her lovely books. So, shall we get started?
Yeah, sure.
So, children, as I told you, our author for today is amazing. She's written over 50 books and across so many publishers. So, you know, all your favorite publishers, whether it's Tulika or Ramachitrakatha or Puffin, she has been Ekalavya books. She has been writing books for all of these publishers. And so, Nandini, my first question to you is, how did you start writing? And you've done 50 books. That's a lot of work. So,
Yeah.
what inspired you to get into this area? And how have you been on this journey?
So, I think for every child who grows up reading a lot of books, there's always this thought that it'll be nice to write those stories. And that's how
Yeah.
it was with me. So, I grew up at a time when there were very few books written by Indian authors for children. So, basically, we grew up on a diet of Enid Blyton. And
Yes.
then, Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys when you grew up a little bit. But through that, I did have this dream and I used to imagine what it would be like to write. But it was, it's one thing to dream, and it's a whole different thing altogether to actually get started, because it takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of commitment, discipline, determination, a whole lot of those words that principals like to use in their assembly morning speech.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
you do require all those things. And so I through college I was writing short stories and poems, and winning a couple of prizes here and there. And then it was only later, after I got married, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can actually do it. And I wrote a story and I sent it to a newspaper in Bangalore, the Deccan Herald, and that story was published. And I think for me that was like literally somebody had told me that now you can really do all that you dreamt of. So after
Hmm.
that, I wrote a whole lot of short stories, and I wrote like pieces on authors who I admired, or even on anything else that I found interesting. And then
Okay.
it was only a few years later that after my son was born, I discovered the need to keep him entertained. So
Hmm.
obviously, these stories which I had published were for much older children. They were for children over 10, 9 or 10. So now I needed to entertain a 1-year-old child. So I began to make up stories, and I discovered that he loved it when his name was in the story. Obviously, he felt very connected to it. And that's how, the stories that I made up at that time, I then sent Tulika, and Tulika accepted it. So then I had like a whole lot of picture book publications. And in the meantime, I was still writing for the Hindu, which has this young world supplement. I was
Yes.
writing for Tinkle. I was writing for the children's magazine, Hoot and Toot, so many other things. And around this time, actually, a book of mine, which I had sent as a competition entry, which is organized by the Children's Book Trust, was also published. So the funny thing was, I wrote this novel long before I wrote the picture books, but it only came out in 2011. So that became like my first novel. It's called The House of 14 Cats. And then
I
after
see.
that, yeah, I began to
So
write.
you've actually been doing picture books for toddlers, and you also have been doing these chapter books, the
Yeah,
novels.
yeah, yes,
So those are very different genres, right? How do you
yes.
kind of
So for picture books, I
travel?
find that you sort of have to have a very clear idea, and it has
Hmm.
to be a small idea. In a
Yeah.
format that children will get. At the same time, it has to be big on drama and emotions and events happening. So I know when I get an idea that this is definitely a picture book idea.
Okay.
But with something like the sweet shop, the curious
Yeah.
case of the sweet shop, I knew that this would have to be a big one, because I wanted to write about a shop which sold all these sweets, and a shopkeeper who was perhaps sort of doing it only because it was expected of him, whereas his heart was elsewhere. So
Yeah.
a lot of the times, when you listen when you think of an idea, the idea tells you in what format it wants to be written.
Mm-hmm.
So at the most, you can have a short story which can grow, maybe into like a chapter book, an early chapter book. But I don't think that a picture book idea could ever be mistaken for a middle
Okay.
grade novel. It wouldn't, because the audience would be very different. The kind
Yes.
of questions that were to be discussed would be very, very different. The kinds of things you were saying and wanted to say would be very different.
So
So,
ideas, when you talk about how you get the creative ideas, so this is children for all of you, who want to write. The first question is, what do I write about? Isn't it? Like, what is the
yes.
idea? And everything sounds not so great. Is this worth being a story? How do you arrive at the idea to write on?
So that's a great question, because I think that not any writer, and I'm not going to say a beginning writer, a beginner
Mm,
writer, anyone at any point is constantly plagued by doubts. Is this idea worth writing on? Will it make for
yeah.
an interesting story? So for all of the kids, I want to say that it's a process of writing it down. What I have found is that instead of thinking in the air about an
Mm,
idea, pin
mm,
it down, put it down on paper. And sometimes the idea may not be that great because you haven't thought it through. So basically,
mm.
you haven't planned how to write, what to say. In which case you can now what you can do. Sometimes the first draft that you write, whatever you've written, it gives you an amazing framework for what you can do and how you can build up on the story. So
Mm.
one of the things that I very firmly believe in is that you have an idea which is just dying, itching to get out of you. You should not be too doubtful of it. You should
Okay.
not question it too much. Just sit down and write it out. And
Mm.
there have been several stories that as I'm writing, as I'm halfway through it, I can already spot what is wrong with it. I can already tell what I need to do to improve it, but I still finish that first draft, because then I can use it to work on. And the second important thing in this is that as a writer, so much of what you do takes time to actually bear fruit. What I mean
Mm.
is, when you start off, you're just writing one story. So if you end up spending all the time thinking about whether you should or not, there'll be nothing to show even at the end of 10 years.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
you sit down and write it, and that writing will show you immediately where your gaps are. It will show you what you need to do to improve on, what you need to work on. Like for me, I found that my dialogues were a little stilted. They were not
Mm.
they didn't sound natural. So
Mm.
I had to work very hard on my dialogues.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it did help, writing and improving and doing that. But if I had not had a first draft, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known,
So you
what.
need a starting point. You need somewhere
Definitely,
to start,
definitely.
and that needn't be grand. It can be anything. Anything can be a.
Anything.
So yeah. So Nandini, can you give children? So first of all, what is the right age? When do you think kids can start attempting to, creative writing, getting into small stories? And can you give them 4 or 5 simple steps in which they could start their own formulations?
So I age wise, I think 8 or 9, like as
Okay.
soon as a child is able to formulate thoughts. Okay,
Okay.
so I don't think like, just like I think that no, I mean, because we are growing older, I don't think there's any age limit on what you can do or enjoy. I'm the kind of person who believes in constantly learning and adding
Hmm.
to
Yes.
what I know. And that's why I don't think that there can be any age when a child can or cannot start. If my son, he surprised me. I used to read out to him from the time he was a baby and tell him stories and everything. And one time, I remember I was bringing him from school, and he asked me, "Do you have paper?" And then I always carry a notepad to write ideas. So I gave it to him. And he just went and shut himself up. He said, I want to write something. And
Wow.
he wrote this lovely poem. I don't know where it came out from.
How
It
old
was
was
just
he?
8 years old.
8.
And
Okay.
poetry, and it was he called it Bursting Eight. I just loved the title. And it was about how he's grown up and how once he was tiny and he's grown up. So I think that when a
That's
child is,
profound.
yeah, I still have that notepad. I embarrass him with it, but I don't show it to him. But I do have it. So I think a child, when she or he is ready to write, should be willing to write. And what I would suggest is that, the what I tell lots of, I mean, everyone who asks me is, the first thing you need to do is have an idea notebook. Okay, so I'm
Idea
going to show
notebook.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to show you my idea notebook. So this is a gift from a friend. She's got all the covers of my books on it, and she's given me this
How
just
sweet.
just in case I'm not inspired enough. So this is where, and I have stacks of my idea books. All of these on my shelf here are my idea books, which I have worked through the years. And write down your idea. Because ideas are like really, really. Easy to lose things. You wake up and you think that you'll always have time to write it down, but no, they just vanish, and then you feel really
And
sad
they
that
get
you missed it.
and they get lost in the clutter of operational life
Yes,
and
yes, so many
the
things, so many
humdrum.
things. Yeah, so the first
Mm.
thing I would suggest is that keep an idea notebook. Also, it's a
Nice.
great record. Like when I finish, I make my notes below that when I start work on it, and when it's finally accepted, it's such a great feeling to see that I write there, then accepted, and then when it's finally published, I say published. So it's a great feeling because it shows that you have had the commitment to see an idea from its inception to the point where it's out in the world in an actual physical form. So as a
Absolutely.
writer, see, what happens is you're sitting alone and writing. So you need to have these set of kind of framework of how you go, and series of steps that you follow. So I would say that an idea notebook is the first thing you need to do. If you are serious about writing, you should set time aside
Okay.
regularly to write, because this is the second thing I would suggest, that a sense of discipline about writing is necessary. That you put it down, don't keep putting it off, don't wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. Whatever you get, half an hour here, 20 minutes there, 10 minutes there, just add to it, make notes, do whatever you can, and write it. And
Right.
I would say always be open to suggestions, even criticism, because
Mm.
uh, your focus should be on writing, and writing well. Your focus shouldn't be on just putting something down on the paper and having it called a story. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly, so that means you should be open to whatever suggestions people give you, whether it's your parents or your teachers, and not take it as a personal affront, because whatever they're telling you is meant to help you improve.
Yes.
I find a whole lot of children, the way they are being brought up, are told, I mean, are so little is expected of them, that if they just put down 5 sentences on a piece of paper, it is hailed as some great achievement. I don't deny that it's a great achievement. It is. But if you want the child to improve, and if the child's really ardent desires to become an author, as parents and as educators and as the grown-ups in the life, we can find a gentle way of helping the child work and improve. Because if we
Yes.
don't do it, the world is going to do it, and the world is not going to be as gentle and
And
as
it's
kind.
important to allow the child to reach out for a little more than is very
Yes,
easy within class.
exactly. But
And
we're
that's when
just
growth happens. They need
exactly.
to stretch.
And it's amazing. In fact, when I do my creative writing courses, I ask children to start by writing a story. So they come to class with a story written, which they send me, and I send them the feedback. And then through the 3-week course, I teach them the various aspects of writing and why they are necessary, what role they play in the story. And at
Mm.
the end of it, I tell them, go take a look at that story you wrote for me, and now you evaluate it based on all the criteria we've been
Yeah.
discussing. So what
Yeah.
happens is that they learn to be critical of themselves, which is the
Correct.
first step.
Yeah.
And then from there they know how to edit it, what to, even if they understand that this is what isn't working, they can always ask an adult for help. They can ask someone for help, or as they continue writing, they will learn how to rewrite it, edit it, make it, give it greater clarity and give it better flow. So
Right.
so I would say
So these
these
are
three
three
things.
fantastic steps you've actually told us about. One is having an idea notebook.
Yeah.
Whenever you get a little spark, a little idea, capture it immediately. That's a wonderful one. Second is make time to write as a regular activity. So it's not
Yes.
about waiting for weekends or summer vacations or winter vacations. And I think this is true even for the adults. Anybody who
Yes.
has to get anything
Yes.
done,
Yes.
make time for it. Even
Exactly.
exercise, even it's like everything else.
Everything.
You
Yeah.
need to make time.
Yeah.
And the third thing is be open to improvement, critique, feedback, all of that
Definitely.
in order
Yes.
for us to grow.
Yeah.
How important is it, Nandini, for aspiring writers to have role models in writing? Should you look at some authors and say, I like that style. Can I start writing like that? Because as a reader, you get influenced. You get influenced by
Yes.
certain writers, their use of English as a medium for putting thoughts in place, or the way situations and settings go. There are various influences. So, do you think a writer should have a role model and an influence?
So I think
Do you have
yes,
one?
definitely. Yeah, I have lots of
Who are
them,
yours?
and so I really admire this the Indian author Shashi Deshpande. I really like the way she writes. Then I really like Subhadra Sengupta, who's written a lot of historical fiction. When I was growing up, there was this lovely magazine called Target, and I read her stories in that, and I really like that. And then I really admire someone like Stephen King and Neil Gaiman, because I think the kind of Stephen King, I think more than Neil Gaiman, the kind of commitment they bring to the craft and the kind of focus they have is something that I really, really think I benefit a lot from. So when it comes to role models, I would say there are two kinds of role models you can
Okay.
have. Like that's how I have. I look at authors like Stephen King, for example, or even Shashi Deshpande, who published at a time when people were in, she started with children's books. Not many people know that. So she wrote at a time when we didn't, there was no internet, there was none of this. So you basically wrote by hand or got it typed and sent it and whatever. And I look at someone like Stephen King, who wrote through so many ups and downs in his life. So I look at them as role models when it comes to the discipline of
Yeah.
being a writer.
Right.
When I look at other authors like Subhadra Sengupta, for the way in which she makes history so much fun, or this British writer who I admire greatly named Diana Wynne Jones, for the way in which she talks about everyday things, or another British writer called Hilary McKay, who presents dysfunctional families and makes them so lovable. There, my role model would be the kinds of ideas and how they treat it. So I think
Hmm.
that we can have two kinds of role models. That's how it works for me. Role
Yeah.
models who inspire you because of their the solid work they put in, their attempt constantly to improve themselves.
Yeah.
So
And I think
basically,
the caveat would be to get inspired by them, but not emulate their style, and
yeah.
stick to
So
your own style
yes,
and
so
be
there
true
I
to
think
yourself.
exactly. So there I think that all of us go through this phase when we enjoy one author so much that we want to write exactly
Yes.
like them. So in fact, I've
Yeah.
had children tell me this, and I tell them that there can be no one who can write what you can write. So you focus on the
Hmm.
story you can tell. Because no one else is going to be tell it. They might tell it the way you're going to tell it. So because you're going to bring your experiences, you're going to bring your thoughts, which are so unique, which are so different from everyone else. So I am constantly telling children that it is, inspiration from an author is for the author the greatest, what should I say, compliment anyone can pay them. But I think as a writer, when you are inspired by them, the inspiration should be such that nobody's going to read your book and say that, oh my God, this is exactly like that person's. Your
Hmm.
inspiration should lead you on different tangents and different ways of thinking. It should open up your way of thinking about writing rather than restrict you to just copying this particular author style or topics or whatever. So I think that role
Right.
modeling that way, if you look at it, and I read so many stories, and they're all about werewolves and vampires and magical schools. And I think that if they just took that idea, I mean magical school or something like that, and if they put it in an Indian context perhaps and gave it the kind of Indianness, it would still be a really fun read. And what is more important, it would be such an original read.
Absolutely. So,
Mhm.
have confidence in yourself and trust your ideas to have their own
Yes,
life. And,
yes,
as a combination of your ideas and your hard work, you can create something original.
exactly.
And I think even your role models are happier when you are creating something
Yes,
inspired
yes.
by them, but still yours.
Yeah, because nobody wants to have their ideas directly lifted and
Yeah,
copied, or
absolutely.
no one is going to be very gentle on plagiarism. So instead,
Yes.
take inspiration and allow that inspiration to make you think and your thoughts go in different ways,
Yeah,
which will help you create a very very unique work of art.
right.
So
So, Nandini, I wanted to touch upon, because we have many wonderful parents here who are also listening in and attending this literature festival with their children.
yeah.
And today, as much as we talk about, so there's so much more available to read compared to what we had growing up. I mean, I feel I lived your childhood and mine. It was the same thing. Amar Chitrakathas, Enid Blytons, Nancy Drews, Hardy Boys, and the Targets as teenagers. It
Yes.
was that. But today, there's so much more. But unfortunately, there are also so many other things that kids are involved in, screen time, and
Yes.
you have your video games, and there's so many other distractions. So what do you suggest to our parents who are out there? Because much as parents would love their kids to be great readers, the
Hmm.
reality in our country today is parents are constantly screaming at their children or telling them read, read, and kids always want to do something else. Or parents themselves don't think it's important to read. What's your take on the importance of reading, and how can parents, kind of bring that habit into children?
So I totally agree with you, because I've been in bookshops, I've been at literature festivals where children want to buy books and parents don't want to buy it. On the other hand, I've had parents who obviously have never read a book in their life, but they are very very keen that their child start reading. I think for parents who have the luxury of wanting something better for their child, to start with storytelling, telling them stories. Again, this is something I find very interesting and a little disappointing, that parents don't seem to be able to narrate stories to their own children, which I don't understand. They say we don't know how to narrate stories. So
You mean
I
original stories?
they don't have to be original. Any
Okay,
stories,
any
any
stories.
stories.
Yeah,
They prefer carrying their children, going across the town and attending some formal sessions rather
yeah,
than doing it. So I think that if you want your child to read and to have an interest in stories, you need to first help them understand that stories are amazing things, and then make the connection between the story and the physical book. So anytime, you can begin with a child as young as 6 months, just holding them when you're feeding them. You can keep narrating stories, very simple, they can be silly, because your child is not going to stop you and tell you that, hey mom, that's a silly story. Nobody's going to stop
yeah,
you. You have a
yeah.
captive audience on your hip, so just
And
tell.
non-judgmental at that.
Totally non-judgmental. They're going to love anything you say. So tell them
Yeah,
stories. And then when they get to the age of 1 or even before, you can actually introduce a physical copy of a book and
correct.
narrate the story again. Again,
Yes,
here the doubt is, should we do it in English or the mother tongue? Always, whichever language is more comfortable. If English is the one that you speak with your children, go ahead with that. If your mother tongue is the one that comes naturally in your interaction with your child, just narrate it with that. And make sure your house is full of books, and make sure that you spend that little time, you devote that little time every day to reading to your child, having a routine, maybe reading with breakfast, and definitely reading before they go to bed, or holding reading out as a reward for things done, or
yes.
for to comfort them. And so that would be for children who are really young. But I do see parents having a struggle with children who reach the age of 7 or 8
Yeah.
without ever having read a book, because they have tasted the magic of cell phones and video games and TV, and they don't want a book which makes you work. Because a
It's
book
no
makes
effort.
you,
Absolutely. You
yeah,
get you
yeah,
get
everything is
the
there.
easy way out.
Yeah, so I think there, it really works if the parents themselves are readers, because children do look at us and they do imitate what we do. So if parents themselves get these books and sit with them, and it is going to take a little bit of effort, because you're competing with this lovely flickering bright images that they're seeing on TV. So it is going to be sort of a challenge, but it also involves some sacrifices on the parents part. You will have to turn off the TV, you will have to really create a quiet space in your house where you're going to only have the books and the child, and you're going to read out to them what they want.
Absolutely.
So,
No,
and
that's
another
very well
thing.
said, yeah, Nandini. I mean, in fact, this also needs discipline. Do it for 20 minutes
Yes,
before bedtime, do it at lunchtime,
exactly.
breakfast time, find your slot. And, I think somewhere, my appeal, or, the realization that we've all had is when children start reading, or you read to them, the benefits are so diverse. Their
Yes,
vocabulary building, their thought formulation, their ability to express, their social skills, their imagination, creativity. It's all very intertwined into a
definitely.
great upbringing. And this
Yes.
cannot start suddenly at the age of fourth standard. Chalo, start reading and writing. It's not going to work that way.
No, no.
You have to start with your picture books, your small,
Yes.
2-word books, 3-word books, your picture dictionaries. But start. Yeah,
But even in fourth class, if some parent wants to,
yeah,
because I don't want to, I'm always very hopeful. Even if a child
yeah.
who's 10 wants to read, I think even there, if the child wants to read, it will require some effort on the parents' part.
Yes,
Because again, not judging the child by the age. Because there is this whole
yes.
thing that if you're 10, you should be reading fact books. No, let
Hmm.
them read picture books, because remember, they skipped that part, so they kind of
They
came
have
late to
to.
the class. So let them read that, let them come to that at their own pace, rather than
Yes.
forcing. Another thing I think parents also need to do is to be very alert to what their child likes. Not every child enjoys stories. This sounds strange, but there are
Hmm.
children who actually love nonfiction. They just thrive on books which have facts, and
Yes.
they just like gluttons for that.
The
So,
dinosaur boys.
oh my
I
god.
love to. They are a category. They're into
Yes,
space and dinosaurs, and
yes.
I mean, boys or girls. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
So we
Yeah, it's
need to
not
be
always
really
textbook.
alert to what
Well,
they want. So
yeah,
one
that's a good
parent
point.
once said that I've filled my house with books. I take my daughter to the library, but she still doesn't read. Should I give it up? Should I just this thing? So I said, no, it's not that your child is not going to read. She's just not found the book that she's going to fall in love with. She
Yeah.
has to find that book. And as a parent, it's your duty to take her to libraries, to bookshops, to let her pick what she wants. And if it is about some really weird topic, I don't even know, like archaeology, so be it. At least she's reading something. And from there you can get her
So
reading.
exposure is critical. Expose them
Yes.
to poetry, to non-fiction, to fiction, to limericks. It could be picture books, a variety of books,
Yeah.
so they also understand what
Understand.
they have
Like
a
when,
great
yeah,
passion
when I was
for.
growing up, it for me it was stories. It was only
Yeah.
stories that fascinated me. But I found with my son, like you said, he was one of the dinosaur boys growing up. He had the entire book memorized. He couldn't read it, but I used to read out to him. And one day he's astonished us by just standing up and reciting the entire dinosaur book. And we were like, when did this happen? He couldn't even read it just from hearing me read out. And he was fascinated by dinosaurs, but it was just a phase. He went past it, then he went into a phase where he read other kinds of books. So I think parents need to be alert and to make sure that they're giving their child the right book at the right age, so that they continue reading. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh my God. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our
Your
time
time.
today,
Yes.
Nandini. Really, I wish, you and I can continue talking for hours.
Yes, I'm
It's been
sure.
such a lovely chat with you. Thank you so much. But before we conclude, what are those 5 books from the Nandini Nair collection that you would recommend to all our audience today? The
Oh
must
god.
reads.
The must
You have
reads.
so many wonderful books. What
So
an accomplished lady you are.
I would say this
Yeah.
definitely, primarily because I think it touches upon a very real fear that lots of children have, that if they don't see their mother, and I think it kind of is a very elemental, very basic fear that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And what would I would say, oh yeah, for chapter book, so for those who have grown out of picture books, I would suggest these two. So this is
Minnie's
the
money, Minnie's questions. All
Yeah, so
right.
this is a mini series, and
I
these are
see.
for independent readers. So you can see
Yes.
the font is easy, and I love writing them because Mini is the kind of girl I would want every child to be asking questions. She's always asking questions,
Wow.
and this is about what she does with the money she gets for Dasara, and the kind of empathy and the kindness she has. I think I would definitely suggest these. And then for older readers, I would suggest these books because they are for all of these kids who love these Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And
Yes.
think of that. Here is the Indian version of it. Here are mithais that you can actually make, and you can actually get from a shop when you read a book. Which I think eating the sweets, you're reading about the food you're reading about really enhances the reading experience. So you could definitely do that. So yeah, those would be the 5 books.
Lovely. My
several
God,
more.
children and parents, you know what to do. Pick up these books, and the rest of your lockdown is going to be a treat because you can't wait to snuggle into your blankets this winter and read the books. Thank you, Nandini, for being here with us for the story reading and talking to our children. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Nandini. I really enjoyed my discussion with you, and I felt we could do it for hours, but we had a time constraint. Thank you so much. So kids, I hope you liked it. Tomorrow, which is day 7, we have 3 very, very interesting sessions lined up for you. So take note. At 4 p.m., we are going to get into a Gond art workshop. So Gond is a tribal art form, and we're going to, learn about that. At 5 p.m., we are going to meet the very famous author of the Gentle Elephant series, Gajapati Kulapati. Who is the author? Ashok Rajgopalan. So we're going to meet him. He's going to read out some stories and also talk to me, and you can, listen to all his experiences as a writer. And finally, we have a very exciting theatre workshop by Helen O'Grady International. Theatre is a very important element of growing up because it involves learning about expression, about voice modulation, about body language, and so much more. So, tomorrow is going to be a very exciting day. So do tune in at 4 p.m. and we have 3 back-to-back sessions just for you. So take care, kids. Stay safe. And before you go, subscribe to stay tuned with everything that I'm doing, and also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you. Bye.